So people were holding out and hoping that Mitt Romney would stand up to Trump when it comes to the Supreme Court. But he already burst that bubble. Take a look.
I wasn't there. I think there's some perception on the part of some writers and others that, gee, what happened with Merrick Garland was unfair. I don't agree with that. I don't know whether you think it was a good decision or not, but it wasn't unfair because it was consistent with history. It was consistent with precedent. It was consistent with the Constitution. So the idea that the Merrick Garland decision was unfair and therefore it has to be made up by doing something which also wouldn't make a lot of sense, which is saying to President Trump, you can't get your nominee either, that just doesn't follow for me. The Garland decision was consistent with history. The decision to proceed with a new nominee is also consistent with history and precedent, and that's where I come out.
They blocked the Merrick Garland seat for over 300 days. And if we were to block this seat from being filled, it would only be blocked for like 45 days. 300 days, so over 300 days versus 45 days. And somehow he's doing the mental gymnastics to say like, that's totally fine. What happened with Garland, bro? It's totally fair. It's totally constitutional and okay and totally fine. But oh my God, if they don't give Trump this seat, oh my God. If it's okay to block Garland for over 300 days, it's okay to block whoever the hell is supposed to fill this seat. You know, for 45 days or whatever it is. Duh, of course. Of course. It's almost like he's doing mental gymnastics to bring himself to support Trump's nominee. There were all these articles, or I should say Trump's appointment, not nominee, whatever you want to call the person who's supposed to fill the seat. There were all these articles about how Mitt Romney's going to be the one who stands up to Donald Trump. He's the anti-Trump Republican leader. This is what we need, yes! Anti-Trump Republicans, yes! How's that working out for you? You know, not to do a victory lap, although that's exactly what I'm about to do, but I told you guys, establishment Republicans, so-called anti-Trump Republicans, the only thing they don't like about Trump is that he's crass, and he has no filter, and he shit-talks people on Twitter. That's the only thing they don't like. All they want him to do is have more decorum and be more civil. And then they're like, oh, this guy's perfect. This guy's awesome. They would love Trump as much as they loved Reagan, if not more, if Donald Trump would just reel it in with being a dick. That's it. That's it. He doesn't know how to do the bullshitting. He doesn't know how to put on the politician's veneer of like, yeah, it's me. I'm a serious person. Don't you think I'm so serious? I think I'm serious. Do you think I'm serious? I think I'm serious. And then the media's job is, oh yeah, they're so serious. Look at them. They don't say mean things on Twitter. But they love everything Trump has done policy-wise. All of these ghouls, I mean, Romney I don't think was in at the time, but the 2017 Republican tax law. All the Republicans supported the 2017 tax law, even though it was the Bush tax cuts on steroids, even though it's going to give all the money to the wealthy and help speed up the next crash. They were with him on that 100%. They're with him on we're still bombing 8 countries. They're with him on that. You know, sanctioning Venezuela, blocking medicine from going into Iran and moving towards regime change there. They all agree to that. They all agree to that. All the deregulation. We covered the story on this show about how they're removing the regulations that protect the water around coal plants. So now 1.1 million people are going to have dirty water that's poisoned with arsenic and a bunch of other stuff. Because we know, because there was a time we didn't have these regulations, and that's what happened. So Trump removes those regulations. Is Mitt Romney out there making a stink about it, saying, I'm going to stand up to Trump on this? No. Because again, the only thing they dislike is his personality. They agree with him on policy. I don't give a damn about his personality. I disagree with him on policy. So if you're enabling him every step of the way and you agree with him, I'm going to come after you. But these dupes, these idiots, these morons in mainstream media, they have the IQ of a gnat, and whoever mutters some anti-Trump sentiments are like, oh yes, very serious person, yes, yes. Who cares if they don't like his tweets? Who cares? If they're going to vote for his pick for the Supreme Court, they're going to support his pick. That's a problem. So I hope people will learn their damn lesson, but they won't. Don't do these rehabilitation pieces on these monsters. Are you kidding me? They did this at one point with Glenn Beck. Remember for 7.5 minutes, Glenn Beck pretended to be anti-Trump? And like Samantha Bee and like The Daily Show, like a bunch of these liberal outlets, like we're like, yeah, sure, let's welcome him with open arms because he doesn't like Trump. Well, of course, it came back to bite him in the ass because with Glenn Beck, it was even worse. He eventually came around even on Trump's lack of decorum. He's a full Trump guy now. What did you think was going to happen? You think this guy has principles? Do you remember anything about the 2012 race? Do you remember anything about everything he was involved with? Remember the 47% comments? Yeah, 47% of the country will never take responsibility, and they're basically like parasites. He's saying Democrats are takers, Republicans are makers, and I'm not a president for the 47%. Ew, yuck, gross. Like, this is who this guy is. He's Thurston Howell III in real life, and people were giving him credit. Their hopes were pinned on this guy. This guy. Well, he can't make it any more clear. Of course he's going to support. They supported Gorsuch. They supported Kavanaugh, the frat boy. Of course they're going to support these people because really, at the end of the day, they agree on policy. If they agree on policy, they'll be voting with Trump. So, again, I hope people learn, but they won't. They'll, anytime any Republican, the media loves nothing more than an anti-Trump Republican. And they're being used because the whole anti-Trump Republican brand is just the reason why that's dangerous is that when Trump is eventually gone, the media already did all the work of rehabilitating the other Republicans and framing them as good Republicans. Really, everything Trump does should be pinned on all these cretins in D.C. who are Republicans in power. They all own every terrible thing Trump has done, but the media is letting them get away with it and helping rehabilitate them and acting like they're not responsible for all the terrible things Trump has done because they love the narrative of like the good Republican, the anti-Trump Republican, the serious Republican. And this is how you get a situation where like David Frum and Bill Kristol are resistance heroes when they are literal war criminals. They are warmongering war criminals who are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians in Iraq. So there you have it. Now, what's going to happen with this seat? I still don't know. It looks like the Republicans are going to fall in line, save maybe 2, which means that the Republicans will have the votes to get, to fill the seat. And so what's going to happen? I don't know. The only reason I say I don't know is because the election is super close. So if they put a rush on it, they'll probably get it filled, and that is beyond dangerous. And at that point, if the Democrats don't come out in favor of packing the court, well then there will be no left-wing change ever. In other words, even if you get, let's say, Medicare for all passed, the Supreme Court will hear a case on it and just be like, yeah, it's unconstitutional. We're going to slap it all down. That's what's going to happen. If you have a solidly conservative court, they'll come up with some nonsense rationalization about how, the Constitution doesn't allow you to make sure people don't die from lack of health care. And it'll happen with every issue. Doesn't matter what every issue. Nope, that's unconstitutional. That's unconstitutional. You want to do anything positive ever? Unconstitutional. We don't allow it. The scariest thought of all is that maybe Democrats don't even really care if that happens. Why? Because in a world where the Supreme Court gets the final say on everything and strikes down all positive change, the Democrats can do a lot of fundraising off that. The Democrats can pretend, can do the kabuki theater, can posture as if, we're the people who are the good people, and look at all the things the bad people are doing. I guess you have no choice but to support us. And they play the role of the perpetual loser who says, if you just give me a little more money, then we'll be able to stand up to them. Then we'll be able to beat them. And they just play that role over and over and over and over and over. Terrifying thought, huh? Well, guess what? Pelosi, Tim Kaine, a bunch of these people have already indicated, Chris Coons, they've already indicated, we're not going to, they could have, for example, done the Republican trick. You know what the Republican trick is? Government shutdown. They needed to pass a continuing resolution to fund the government, to keep it going. And the Democrats could have said, we're not going to do a continuing resolution because you're not filling the seat. How you like them apples? They could have done that. They already took it off the table. They already made a deal on the continuing resolution. What does that tell you? They ain't going to do dick. So anyway, there you have it. Of course, the so-called good Republicans, the anti-Trump Republicans, of course they're all frauds. The only thing they didn't like was his mean tweets. Everything else they love, which is why they're part of the problem.